chocolate.
What's poppin', man? It's Audio Al, and you're listening to Hidden Oaks Overdose Football Fix right here on YouTube, Spotify, or any of your favorite streaming apps.
It is October 1st, 2022, Saturday morning, 8 a.m., podcast number 111. Josh, it's already October, but hello, everybody, and welcome to the Hidden Oaks Overdose Football Fix podcast. I'm one of your lovely hostesses, the Garlic Johnson. We are joined, as always, by our other lovely hostess, the Joshua Mitchell. Josh, say hi to the folks out there.
Folks.
Oh, that was beautiful. Nice little morning, raspy morning voice out of Josh there. We got the Discord. We got the anchor.fm/hoodpod/message. Segment start times. Thank you, Levi Oki. You guys get it by now. I mean, we're not really pulling new fans. Do I really need to go through this every week? Who knows? But how you doing, Josh?
How are you, Gar?
Oh, I'm saying I'm doing good. There's a chance I was going to have to go into work this morning. It's like end of our fiscal year, and so there was some extra work to do, but my boss was like, actually, I can do all that stuff, and I'll do it because I'm a masochist. So I was like, I mean, I'm not going to manage my own boss, so if you got a boss, you go for it. So I might have had to be into work at 6 a.m. this morning, but instead, here I am, so...
Yeah, I mean, you did mention he has 7 kids, so maybe he's not a masochist. Maybe he's just smart.
He got out of the house very intentionally.
Yeah.
See ya, dear. You enjoy the kids. Definitely not going into this work for overtime that I don't need because I'm salary and I don't even get it. So see ya, pie. Be back at tomorrow for the Vikes game. Who knows? But yeah, no. Other than that, it's a beautiful Saturday morning. It's already, isn't it crazy? It's already October.
Yeah. No, it's already October, and as we know, it's Kirktober for Minnesota. So.
Kirktober starts tomorrow, baby. Have you seen the stats last time he was in London, pal?
So I'm hunkering down. Yeah, have you seen the stats about the last few games against backups? It's going to be the unstoppable force
Josh,
versus
are you
the
dying?
No, connection issues.
What are you, little Miss Steinhoff? Just a little laryngitis.
Yeah.
Jesus.
No. It was like the mini cinnamon French toast. Just a little bit of syrup got caught back there and got a little bit stuck. So I'm
delicious. Good. Okay, so I just want to make sure. But all right, you're doing good. I'm doing good. It's October. Let's get into it, Josh. We got the start sit here. How'd we do last week? Obviously, Al coming in the chat early this morning. Al woke up and chose violence. How'd we do last week?
We went 3 out of 5, so we still more than half.
60%. That's a solid D.
But our overall point differential was negative 8.4, mostly because of the Devonta Smith and Jacoby Myers. But if we were to have known that Jacoby Myers was out, we would have been 3 out of 4 plus 22.5, just omitting that one. So it's like that was a big swing there for that one. But in the overalls, I did keep it with a 3 out of 5. So we're still 9.5 out of 15 with a 40-point positive swing. So, Al, I didn't manipulate the numbers that much. Just want to let you know that any idiot that would have started a guy who's out deserves to lose 30.9 points. But going into this week, I went up with the backup starters. So guys coming in during the season, replacing their original quarterbacks. And we've got Cooper Rush versus Washington or Jimmy G versus the Rams.
Oh, we got Walters, too. Everyone's up this morning. Well, Eric's, it's like 4 p.m. for him, but everyone else. Shout out to Al and Walters. But all right, you said Jimmy G or Cooper Rush. Josh, I always pull up their stats here, so we'll check the tail of the tape. Obviously, this is a bit topical for me because in Brad's Guillotine League, I had Jameis as my quarterback, in which case I have to change my team name again because I literally just changed my team name to Dr. Winningston, I presume. But now I'm going to have to go change my team name again because I cut Winston, so damn it. But anyways, so there's not a lot of quarterbacks available is the point, and I picked up Cooper Rush of all people. He has, the 2 weeks he started, he has 13.6 fantasy points and 12.4 fantasy points, 31 attempts in both of them, 19 or 21 completions for, a little over 200 yards and 1 tud. The guy's doing absolutely zero rushing. So he's very consistently like low teens. For his Jimmy Garoppolo, when he came in to spell when he came in to spell Trey Lance in Seattle, he got 16.66 fantasy points. That was 13 for 154 and a tud, and then a rushing tud as well. Whereas last week versus Denver, which Denver's a very stingy defense, he only got 8.44, 18 completions for a 211, a tud, and a pick. So I mean, it's tough. I think Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be playing a tougher defense with the Rams as well. Whereas Cooper Rush is playing one of the worst defenses in the league with the Washington Commies. I picked up Cooper Rush. It's obvious that I was going to pick Cooper Rush. So I don't know if you just picked this one as a slam dunk for me, but maybe you have an argument for Jimmy G.
No, I don't. I have Cooper Rush in butt, sweat, and beers, and he's going up against some scrub that's 3-0. So I'm going to go ahead and lock in Cooper Rush alongside you. I think his minimum is 50,000.
I mean, okay, so let's. I mean, since you got eliminated from Brad's guillotine, so you do Cooper Kush. What about Justin Fields, Davis Mills, Jacoby Brissett, Andy Dalton, Brian Hoyer? Any of those guys over Cooper Rush? You think I'm making a mistake?
No, I think Cooper Rush is fine, especially just because of the matchup. And then next week when somebody gets eliminated, if you snag their quarterback, as long as they're better than Jameis, you'll be fine.
All right. Well, we'll see if I get my let's see if my neck is sore by tomorrow after Cooper Kush lets me down. But I think Cooper Kush is the right call. So that's who we're doing in this little start sit table, and that's who I'm starting in Brad's guillotine league. We'll fucking see what happens. Next one, Josh, you have on the do not draft list. I'm not sure. Well, I don't know what you're doing here. You got to relax. But I'm not sure anyone would have not drafted Gibson. Certainly, Miles Sanders has been on my do not draft list for multiple years. But we have Antonio Gibson going against Dallas. We just talked about that game a second ago, and then we have the undefeated Miles Sanders going against the undefeated Jacksonville Jaguars. Yes, Walters. So yeah, I mean, we have Antonio Gibson or Miles Sanders. Josh, I'll let you go first this time. What are you thinking here for the running backs that maybe are doing a little bit better than people thought, or maybe not?
Yeah, the reason it's a do not draft list is because Antonio Gibson, if you watch the tails of the tape, he's a fumble machine, and he had gotten taken over by Brian Robinson before he hired a hitman to shoot him. So
Jesus.
That's why he was on do not draft lists. Obviously, after the injury to Brian Robinson, probably added to some draft lists, did not make mine. That being said, Gibson at Dallas versus Sanders versus Jax. I think Gibson is going to have more opportunity than Sanders, but Jacksonville and Dallas's defense are pretty stingy. That being said, I think that Sanders has a little bit more opportunity Gibson has more opportunity just because there's three running backs that kind of rotate through the Philadelphia offense. So plus their quarterback, which is like a fourth running back. So I would go Gibson at Dallas. But if you have a strong argument for Mr. Miles himself, feel free to lay it on me.
I mean, Bulletproof Bry, what a great nickname. Shout out to Al in the chat. That one fucking got me. I mean, again, this one feels like a slam dunk, but if you look at the snap percentages, they're actually going down for Antonio Gibson. Of course, Brian Robinson can't come back this week, but he went from 64 week 1, 54 week 2, only 44% of the snaps week 3 for Antonio Gibson. Miles Sanders is actually going up 52, 53, and then 59%. I mean, I do think the Jacksonville defense is probably better than the Dallas defense. At least that's how they've played through the first 3 weeks. So, I mean, I'm pretty on the fence either way between Miles Sanders or Antonio Gibson. I guess I can go Antonio Gibson just for the pod, but Miles Sanders is actually, his opportunities are there, and his opportunities are actually increasing where it seems like Antonio Gibson's are decreasing. So for the longer term, Antonio Gibson is going to continue to go down. Miles Sanders is going to continue to go up. For this week, though, I'll take Gibson.
Are you sure? Because after you read those numbers, I would go Sanders.
Oh, my God, Josh. All right, let's go Sanders then.
Okay.
Mild take. I mean, at this point, yeah. I mean, they're 3-0, baby.
So then we got the sneaky wide receivers, guys that you probably that were drafted, but probably drafted after where they were where they should have been. Christian Kirk at Philly versus Sutton at Las Vegas.
Yeah, so all right, we got Christian Kirk here. He has been the number one. He secured the bag going to Jacksonville this offseason. He had 12 targets, 6 targets, and 9 targets respectively the first 3 weeks. 6 receptions for all of them though. 117 yards, 78 yards, and 72 yards. 2 touchdowns in week 2, 1 touchdown in week 3. He's had double-digit fantasy points every week. It hasn't eclipsed 20, but it's between 10 and 20 consistently, depending on whether or not you do PPR. Cortland Sutton has had 4 receptions, 7 receptions, and 8 receptions on 7, 11, and 10 targets. But he hasn't gotten in the end zone yet this year. So, I mean, if you put a couple touchdowns in Cortland Sutton's name, they're pretty much exactly the same receiver. I think Cortland Sutton has the safer floor. Just because, Christian Kirk is going to be covered by Darius Slay. All right, he's playing the Eagles this week. We saw what happened to Justin Jefferson, assuming that the Eagles respect Christian Kirk enough to have him blanketed by Darius Slay all night. Whereas Cortland Sutton is playing the fucking Raiders. Can you name a single corner on the Raiders? I would go Sutton. Of course, I can see Christian Kirk seems to be the better fantasy asset. He's wide receiver number 6 in standard, wide receiver number 8 in PPR. But the Eagles defense is the real deal, so I'm saying Sutton.
That's where I was leaning, just because of the Eagles defense. So yeah, I'm okay with smashing Sutton in there. And Walters, yeah, you better get to basketball practice. Probably should have been there an hour early, bud.
No.
Wrap your Achilles. So yeah, I think Sutton is the go-to play there, just because of that matchup. And who knows if this is the week that Las Vegas turns their offense around and Darren Waller figures out how to not eat popcorn before the game. Then this could be a shootout.
It's a delicious snack. It's low cal. I mean, what do you want from the guy?
Well, it's not low cal when he puts that much butter on it.
Well, it's a risk you have to take for delicious taste, Josh. You won't understand. Right, you skinny bitches won't understand. Okay.
Please, I'm a popcorn concierge. I don't even know what that word means. I just know it's big. Next one is more of a daily fantasy take. We do one of those kind of every once in a while.
You're stupid.
This is the tightest of ends. So we've got Kelsey at Tampa Bay or Andrews versus Buffalo.
By the way, connoisseur was the word you were looking for.
Yeah, concierge. That's what I said. So, Gar, who do you have as the tightest of ends this week? Kelsey or Andrews?
All right. Anyone who's been paying attention to fantasy there, popping off the page, Mark Andrews has been dominating this year. Week 1, he started a little slow, 7 targets, 5 receptions for only 52 yards. Week 2, 11 for 9 and 104 and a tud. Week 3, 13 targets, 8 receptions, 89 yards and 2 tuds. I mean, he only seems to be getting better here. More targets, more touchdowns. Travis Kelce, he's been pretty consistent, 9, 7, and 8 targets for 8 receptions, 5 receptions on 4 receptions, 121, 51, or 58 yards, a couple tuds in week 1 one in week 1, one in week 3. I mean, Mark Andrews for sure seems to be the better play right now. They are playing the Buffalo defense, which has a really beat up secondary, and then Kansas City is playing Tampa Bay. Travis Kelce I think should eat just fine, but Mark Andrews has to be the must start tight end 1 for the foreseeable future until he lets people down. Mandrews, I'll put in the chat, Mandrews better, Kelsey do. That's a common misconception with all these gambling addicts, which I'm included, but there's actually no such thing as actually being due, so I'm saying Mark Andrews for sure.
Yeah, I think that's the route I would go to. Plus, who knows how the weather's going to be in Tampa Bay, just with Hurricane Ian. So I would go Andrews. Al, you should go back to your meetings for GA. But Kelsey, Kelsey is a stud. Obviously, like I said, this is for the daily fantasy. You can't go wrong with either one if you have one of them on your roster or both of them on your roster somehow. If you had to turn and you're like, I'm going to go 2 tight ends. But yeah, I would go Andrews in this one just because of how he's been playing lately.
I think Andrews is a must start until further notice. Even in daily fantasy, it seems like you gotta pay the premium for him. All right, the last one for us, Josh. Then we got a couple in the chat. Gangsters Anonymous. The last one in our table. Then we got a couple in the chat. You marked this one as the trash heap. We've got Travis Etienne at Philly, J.K. Dobbins versus Buffalo, Treylon Burks at Indy, or George Kittle versus the Los Angeles Rams. Josh, What are you thinking here?
It's trash heap for a reason. Burks is probably the most like upside on this one that I see. He's going up against a stingier defense, and he has Ryan Tannehill as his quarterback, so it's more of a run-heavy offense. I'm not sure what his stats look like. I do know that, we already talked about the Philly game, the Philly defense being stingy. ETN is more of a pass catcher out of the backfield. There was a stat that came out that there's of the 51 snaps that Jacksonville's been down this season, ETN has out-snapped James Robinson 29-6. So that's something to keep in mind, especially if Philly does come out swinging.
Jacksonville's
Dobbins
never been down, okay?
Yeah, 51 snaps, I just said it. But Dobbins has been injured, and then he's got a stingy defense. Kittle, he's been injured, going up against a hard defense as well. Kittle had a tough week last week when he came back. So I don't know. I really don't have any preference in these guys. If I could pick a fifth option, I would, but these were the four that were listed. I guess if I had to go gun to my head, I'm going to go with the guy with the most upside for a passing league, which in this case might be ETN just because of the shootout that they might be in.
All right, well, I do have their stats pulled up here, Josh, so let's get ready to go to school. No, just kidding. But even you talk about ETN being, then out of the backfield, he only has 2 receptions, 3 receptions, and 3 receptions in his 3 weeks, whereas he has 4 rushing attempts, 9 rushing attempts, and then 13 rushing attempts. His snap percentage has gone down, I guess, on average. 51 in week 1, 37 in week 2, and then 43 in week 3. Of course, everyone thinks Philly's going to dominate this game just because Philly has beat up 3 really bad teams this year. But so, ETN has not doesn't have gaudy reception numbers, has no more than 3 in any single game. Also had a fumble week 1. J.K. Dobbins, I like him this year, but definitely not playing him against that Buffalo defense. No chance. So Dobbins is out for me. Treylon Burks, he has 5 targets, 6 targets, and 2 targets for 3 receptions, 4 receptions, and 1 reception. So 1 reception against Las Vegas, that's pretty rough. They're playing Indy this week. I don't know. Maybe there's upside there. Like you said, George Kittle, first game back last week, 91% snap percentage, 5 targets, 4 receptions, but those 4 receptions were only for 28 yards. Maybe Kittle and Jimmy G get back into their groove. So I guess, I don't know. The biggest home run swing is maybe Treylon Burks. Travis Etienne probably has the biggest floor. I think George Kittle has the most upside, so I guess I would lean Kittle out of these 4, but I guess I don't care either.
Yeah. If you want to go that route, we can. If you feel like they're going to get back on track, like you said, it was his first game back. He had the targets, obviously. Jimmy G loves him. So Kittle is safer, but Burks has more upside according to Walters. So I think it's safe to say Kittle's eliminated.
ETN then?
But no, I'm just kidding. I'd go Kittle or ETN. Doesn't matter.
Ooh, Al coming in with some trends. Kittle historically does well against the Rams. There you go. They're playing the Rams.
All right, we can lock in Kittle. I'm fine with that.
All right, then a couple from the chat here because we have some lovely fans. Eric's hit us first with the Mike Williams or Allen Robinson. You want to talk about Mike Williams having the more traditional upside, but Allen Robinson being quote-unquote due, Josh. What do we think?
Mike Williams. Keenan Allen isn't playing, I don't think. So, and if he is, he's hobbled. So I would go with Michael W. It sounds like Herbert's ribs are kind of on the up and up, so it's not going to be as struggly as last week, if that's a word. So I would lock them in.
You die.
I would go with Mike Williams.
Mike Williams had 6 receptions, or not 6 receptions. He had 6 targets last week, but only 1 reception, so that's tough. 1 reception for 15 yards. It was for a touchdown, so still an okay fantasy day. Whereas Allen Robinson, obviously we all watched week 1. He had 5 targets the last 2 weeks, 4 receptions week 2, 2 receptions week 3. They're playing San Fran. I guess I'd say you have to go Mike Williams as well. It's just my opinion. But I understand Allen Robinson is in theory due. The next one Al gave us was DeVonta Smith or Jamoki Myers. Obviously a joke. Did I say Jamoki Myers? Oh my God. He also said, okay, real one for my team. Dameon Pierce, Romeo Doubs, DeVonta Smith, or Kareem Hunt. Josh, you have some conflicts of interest here.
Dobbs, wide receiver 1, guaranteed 25.
The Chargers have looked really, really bad. You don't want Dameon Pierce against the Chargers?
Can you combine them? Can you play Damian Dobbs?
I mean, Damian Pierce had 16 fantasy points last week. Romeo Dubs, I mean, if you have PPR, he had more, but he only had 13 points if you were in standard scoring.
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess either one of those two guys is going to be a tough call. I guess if you want to go with kind of the volume piece, I would go with Damian Pierce.
I mean, Devonta Smith had 12 targets last week, Josh. What do you mean?
Well, yeah, but he spelled his name wrong when he sent it out, so I'm just going to ignore that.
Okay.
Plus, they're going up against Jags. No, I like Damian Pierce just because he's going to, I mean, he showed that he can be a good guy out of the backfield. He got, I don't know how many carries, 16, is that what you said? Or no, 16 points, but he led the team
he had 20,
carries. He had
20 attempts for 80 yards and a touchdown.
Yeah, and so I think he looks solid. And so I would go Pierce. I think that they're going to try and feed him the ball. And Dobbs has a little bit more upside when it comes to big play potential, but the New England Patriots defense is pretty solid against the pass. So Pierce it is for me. I guess Devonta Smith you can make an argument for, but like I said, the Jacksonville defense, I think it's ranked number 1 at this point.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they were playing the Washington defense last week when he got his 12 targets, 8 receptions, 169 yards and a tud. I mean, I guess I don't see a reason to not ride the hot hand with Devonta Smith. That'd be my play. But I would respect the Damian Pierce pick. But I mean, I guess out of these 4, I would play Devonta Smith. But that's just me.
I guess since we do rock the PPR scoring when we factor these in, Devonta Smith is probably a better play then.
All right, and I think we've covered all the ones in the chat. Appreciate you boys coming out this morning and hanging with us live. I think it makes for a little bit better content. But all right, we've done the table, and we picked what did we pick? We picked Kittle for the table, then we did the ones in the chat. All right, Josh, I think that's it for the start sit. Want to move into some FanDuel fun real quick here, pal?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, this week I like Amari Cooper at Atlanta for only 7,500. He's been getting peppered with targets the last 2 weeks, and then I like Michael Gallup, not because I mean he's coming off injury. This one's like you're at a budget, you need a really cheap receiver. Michael Gallup's only 6,000. He could be an absolute bust, but maybe he comes back and he has some really good chemistry with Cooper Kush. Who knows? So that one's more of a home run play. But that's kind of what you're doing in daily fantasy. You want the boom or bust. So I like Michael Gallup for 6,000. What do you like this week, Josh?
Yeah, I've got TJ Hawkesaki for Detroit, the tight end for Brian. They're going up against Seattle, whose defense is porous. They don't have Amon-Ra. They're down DeAndre Swift. So TJ Hawkinson's probably going to need the carries. A couple other receivers are banged up. I think Chark is questionable. But for 5,400, he's going to be I think he's a solid. Did you say
something about a low price?
5,400, Josh?
Yeah.
Wow! That's a low price! I know!
Yep. So I think that's a solid tight end play there. So yeah, that's my favorite at least.
All right, I respect it. So those are the FanDuel faves. What about the FanDuel bust of the week, Josh?
I think for the third week out of 4, I'm doing CMC versus Arizona. Obviously, he was on the injury report. Arizona's defense is pretty decent. Well, actually, I don't even know. I'm just making that up. But I don't know. I think that Baker is kind of holding him back. He doesn't get the receptions that he usually does, so he doesn't get the receiving output. So I think CMC is kind of a downer this week. Other guys that I kind of thought of as we're going through this, completely forgot. So let's just stick. Devontae Adams is on that list going up against a tough defense, and Derek Carr apparently doesn't like him anymore. Would rather try and get Darren Waller a catch instead of the guy who can actually catch. So let's go with CMC versus Arizona. He's 8,800.
Jesus, that's a high price. This was going to be controversial. I know Audio Al's going to read me in the chat. I don't know how Walters or Eric's feel, but my FanDuel bust of the week going against an undefeated defense. I got Jalen Hurts. He's costing us 8,600. He's been averaging 30 fantasy points per game. Jacksonville defense appears real. Jalen Hurts is, again, he's played the New York Giants. He played the Detroit Lions, the Washington Commanders, and the Vikings, and the Minnesota Vikings. Those could be the 3 worst defenses in the league through 3 weeks. Jalen Hurts will probably get 20 fantasy points, but do you want to pay 8,600 for 20 fantasy points? I don't think so. So I am fading Jalen Hurts this weekend, at least in daily fantasy.
I mean, people paid 8,800 or whatever for Justin Jefferson to get 2 last week.
You know what, Josh? What? Why? Who hurt you?
Justin Jefferson last week.
Dude, my score was absolutely at the bottom. I scored. I didn't even break 50 points in the FanDuel last week. That was absolutely depressing.
Yeah.
Oh, don't worry. Justin Jefferson was on my team too. Okay, those were the FanDuel faves and the FanDuel bust of the week for some FanDuel fun. Josh, what about some sleeper over and under contests? Who do you like this week for some free cash?
Yeah, this week I've gotten 2. I'm going to try and go 2 for 2 again so I can retire next week again. But I've got Jamal Williams with the over 16.5 reception yards. I logged on a sleeper. You know how it gives you the percentages of who's gone in that game and who's not? Since it's Saturday morning, probably not a lot of people have already logged in and done it. But you'd think sleeper being as popular as it is, there's quite a few people that still use it throughout the week. He was at 100% over for the bet of 16.5 yards. So
okay.
I'd smash that one. And then Travis Etienne with over 17.5. I think the last 2 weeks, or the 2 weeks that he's done well out of the backfield with catches, yeah, he hasn't gotten a lot, but he's made it work. So I think that he's gotten over 17.5 in 2 of the 3 weeks. So I went with the over on that one.
I mean, and if you think the Eagles, I know it was fading ETN, but obviously the Jaguars, they blew out the Colts. They beat them 24-0, and they blew out the Chargers. They blew out the Chargers last week, so they weren't down a lot. If you think the Eagles are as good as they are, the Jaguars should, in theory, be down, so ETN should have many more pass-catching opportunities. So I respect that there. To your point about everyone having 100% being over in Javonte Williams, you saw me go in is that Jamal Williams?
Yep.
Either way, you saw me go in on the app. I already put in and I locked in my bets because if, these lines aren't static. These lines will continue to move. Let's say everyone keeps smashing the over. They'll increase it to 17, 18, 20 yards. So I went in there and I locked these bets in. But I like Dalvin Cook over 82 all-purpose yards. I like TJ, I guess not all-purpose. It doesn't count return yards, but Dalvin Cook's not fucking returning the ball. TJ Hawkinson over 43.5. Again, we mentioned a lot of beat-up pieces in that Detroit offense. Playing the Seattle defense, though. I like Justin Fields under 192.5 pass and rush yards, and like Romeo Doubs over 43.5. So that's who I like in sleeper this week, Josh.
Yeah.
All right, we have
that's a low price.
Here, we'll hit it for you.
Wow! That's a low price!
I did, when I opened Sleeper this morning, it looks like there was a free $10 just to claim free play. Obviously you can't just withdraw it, but it was free $10 of bets. So I don't know if you're in the over-under contest. I don't know. I got free $10. I assume other people will. No medical minute this week, Josh, but getting into the weekly preview, there's a lot of storylines. We won't sit here and talk about it at length because we want to get out of here, in roughly 30 minutes like we have been. But Tua is obviously the biggest story in football right now. Do you have any personal opinions on the Tua thing?
I don't know. I think that somebody posted some analysis on Reddit, and he's going to school for concussion physical therapy. I don't even know what he said, but yeah, and he was saying that, or he pulled out some of the wording that they used for the assessments on the NFL, and said that last Sunday against the Bills when he got hurt, he should not have been allowed back in, just solely on the fact that he was stumbling. It didn't matter if he passed the concussion protocol, he should not have been allowed back in based on the wording that the NFL uses. And so that should have been the first red flag that Miami's cheating. And then throughout the week, obviously, it wasn't the concussion protocol. It was a back and foot injury or whatever. I don't even know.
Yeah, back and ankle, yep.
Yeah, and so it's just okay. Then he comes in. Obviously, this hit was a lot more. It wasn't even a hit. It was more of a body slam. It was a little bit more vicious than the first week.
It was a suplex, yeah.
Yeah, and so obviously he had the fencing response. His hands were, his hands looked messed up. Obviously,
they showed that replay too many times, and it was gross.
Yeah, I couldn't remember who had that happen to them last year, but yeah, the fencing response is never a fun thing to see. And then, obviously he got carted off in the stretcher. He's home already. So I'm just waiting for, Mike McDaniel to put him back in next week as a starter.
Jesus. I mean, yeah, I guess the only thing I think about it is that I'm not a doctor, and for everyone, all these armchair neurologists, I guess, for them all to say, I mean, he was obviously concussed. I don't feel very comfortable saying that. Like, you can, based on what I know about concussions, which is very minimal, I mean, you could say, like, yeah, it looks like he got his bell rung, and the stumbling's not good, but also, like, getting a nerve pinched in your back, or, like, let's say your ankle is hurt, like, you could also stumble from that. So, like just a sharp pain shooting up your body. So I'm not confident in saying he was obviously concussed the week before. And I also don't think there's some big conspiracy. But I don't know. I guess I don't. It's obviously it's gonna be capturing headlines for a while here. But I'm not a doctor. I'm not comfortable saying he was obviously concussed week 2.
Yeah, no, and that's a good point. Like, if he did hurt his back or his ankle, and then he just realized that after he stood up. But one of the things on there was like I'm trying to think.
It
shows disorient.
Yeah, the wording
it's showing
was
disorientation and things like that. And when he stood up, you could see that he like kind of shook his head as like shaking it off, trying to get his bearings. So obviously that should have been a red flag to pull him out for that reason. Then when he stumbled, you'd think that keep him out because of that. But like you said, maybe he's not talking about it. Maybe if he had come out and said, yeah, I felt a pinch in my back, kind of took my knees out, stumbled a little bit because of it. It wasn't anything to do with the hit. Maybe people would have a different reaction, but we haven't heard anything from Tua. Did he forget how to talk? Is that kind of something that happened? But until he says otherwise, and even then we got to take it all with a grain of salt like we usually do, because guys will fudge the initial concussion protocol test. I say that every year because I've taken that initial protocol test, and so people will go in there and go, yeah, I'm just going to put my name down, and then click, 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 and not necessarily pay attention to the questions, because if they pass that threshold, then they're declared good to go.
Interesting. Okay, well, that's brutal. But yeah, I know we've talked about CTE and concussions before on the program, so I was just curious what you thought on it. Obviously, again, it's the biggest topical thing in football. For us not to touch it, I think, would be foolish. But again, like, it's tough because there obviously is that independent neurologist, and there are these team doctors, and like for long-term Tua's health, like they would want to pull him if necessary. Like, I understand you can think short-term, we got to win this game, but long-term, you don't want to lose the guy for the season. And also, it's like all the protocols can be in place, but if Tua, like, because players will lie, right? Because players don't want to get pulled. They'll be like, I didn't have a concussion. It's my back. It's my ankle. Like, players, I'm not victim blaming here, but Tua could lie if he doesn't want to get pulled out of the game, in theory, right? Like, it's possible. So, I don't know. I don't think it's this big conspiracy that the NFL or, because the NFL and the NFLPA is involved too. But I don't know. We've rambled enough. We're already over 30 minutes. So, I just wanted to at least touch the Tua thing because everyone's talking about it.
And Whitworth in the post game on Thursday had said, he had that same situation where he got his bell rung, and then he said he was fine. He stayed in the game, and it wasn't, and he knew that something was off, and so it ended up being his like teammate, his right guard or left guard, that said, you know what, this guy isn't good, take him out, please.
Sure.
And so the team needs to kind of. If the teammates didn't say anything, it's one, maybe they didn't notice, but, it's an interesting situation. And obviously we'll learn more hear more as time goes on. If he does go out there and start next week, I don't know how I'd feel, because the brain is, I don't know if you know this, but it's pretty important for the human body. And so
also pretty fragile.
Having it, yeah, it is literally just a blob of jelly, essentially. And it's encased in calcium, and that's in milk, and milk's a liquid. So if so facto, liquid head. But it's a interesting situation. It always sucks to see something like that happen. Never fun, especially when Amazon Prime decides to zoom in, do the replay in slow-mo, rewind, slow-mo, rewind.
Like they showed that replay too many times.
Yeah, so people are ripping Prime on that just because of the coverage of it. But people want to see it.
Yeah,
it's one of those train wrecks. So Yeah,
Well,
it sucks.
I will say I did reach out to Dr. Jamie Hammer. She's already covered concussions, so I don't know if she'll look into this. I don't know what her schedule looks like. We'll see if an actual medical doctor will come in and talk more about it, whether or not it's concussion specific or like if this was a back thing, maybe she'll speak to that. I don't know. So I'm not saying Jamie will talk about it, but I have reached out to her, so we'll see. Maybe on Tuesday we'll have something, maybe not. But we're done talking about it. We're already way past time, Josh, but just quickly, Eagles and Jags, who do we think? They're both undefeated. Who walks out remaining undefeated?
I want to go with the Jags just because, but until somebody can stop Jalen Hurts, I'd go Eagles. I'm hoping just for a good game, and it's not going to be a lopsided, uneventful matchup. But I'd go with the Eagles just because even if they're playing bad teams, they're brutalizing them. So
absolutely.
I'd go with them.
I agree with you. Jalen Hurts has to be stopped. We'll see if the Jags, who will be the realest defense they've faced so far, can do it. I think Buffalo and Baltimore will be a good game. Should be some high-flying offense there. Brian Hoyer, Josh, the Packer going down to old Axel Hoyer?
No, hopefully not. But speaking of going down, I'm warming up the chop block in our other guillotine league.
Oh, no.
Without Amon-Ra St. Brown, it's not looking so pretty because I'm not putting Allen Robinson back in my starting lineup. This is the week that he's going off because of it. But
just
right
drop
now
him, pick up like Michael Gallup or something.
I've got Garrett Wilson in, Romeo Doubs, and George Pickens. 3 rookie wide receivers taking up 2 of my wide receivers in my flex spot. So it's an interesting thing.
All right. Well, good luck. You're already used to the chop block at this point, losing your head last week. But also the hood. I don't know this last bullet point right here for our hood league. Only one undefeated team. Are they gonna?
Yeah,
who are they playing
opponents.
This week?
They are playing Brad.
Oh, okay. We'll see.
It is me, by the way.
Oh, no. Good luck, Josh. But that's all we got, folks. We've already gone well over. We try and keep it under 30 minutes, but we definitely had to cover the Tua thing there. So we thank everyone for listening. We thank everyone for chatting along. Oh, Eric's is propping you up. He says he thinks Pickens will have a good week, so maybe you'll avoid the chopping block for one more week, Josh. But we've got the Discord. You can leave us voicemails. Not that it seems like voicemails are dead, but anchor.fm/hoodpod/message if anyone would like to leave us a voicemail. We will be back on Tuesday night for some rants and some raves. We got Vikings, 8:30 a.m. tomorrow morning. Get up and make some flapjacks and enjoy Kirktober dominating the Nollan Saints. And that's all I got. Josh, you want to head us with a Go Packers here before we leave?
Oh, Packers.
Bye, everyone. Thanks for listening. Love you. Technically. He's also lost the median, though.
Walters is just shocked because I'm 3-0 in the VS League, too.
Oh, no. Yeah, I did. I didn't even get to cover it. If I can't turn my fantasy season around either this week or maybe next week, I might be dead in like 6 leagues. This is getting brutal.
It's always next year.
I guess, dude. But I'm
next
gonna
year's your second place finish.
You're gonna get the old cream pie and BSB though, league. Josh, hope you're ready for it.
Yay.
God